All right, we are live again with Testigo Venezuela, the project that started last summer concerning the most troubled country in Latin America. Venezuela is undergoing a hunger crisis, a currency crisis, an oil production crisis. What is working in Venezuela? That would be the better question rather than what's not working. And of course, we have, again, Carlos Cordova from Southern California, also originally from Venezuela. Carlos, a lot of what we're dealing with today does have to do with President Maduro's latest experiment, which I'll show in a second, concerning the new cryptocurrency market, which is generally not considered to be consistent with his general policies in the past. You know, he's not really into experiments like this, which are more thought of as kind of an anarcho-capitalist type of policy. So you, of course, you follow the region probably from a different angle, using different sources than I do. What's been the perception of among Venezuelans in obviously in California or throughout the U.S. who are living here towards this experiment, and what's been the reaction from people that you may have been in touch with in Venezuela?
On the crypto thing, I think we all knew that it was going to be scary. We actually surprised by actually, from here talking about investing on it, and I guess as a joke, but we always saw the whole point of cryptocurrency is that it's decentralized. These people are trying to find ways to somehow.
Carlos, could you turn your camera off, because we're still getting this choppiness for some reason?
Yeah.
Let me see. Can you try it now?
How about that?
Yeah, try it now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Truth Force is in the chat. Can you tell us if the connection's better?
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, it was I guess it's not new, right? Everybody knew it, that it was gonna be a scam from the beginning. And that happened right now. I mean, they're trying to make an inherently decentralized system be owned by the government. Well, in this case, they said the oil, but it's who owns the oil in Venezuela. Most of the refineries are owned by a lot of the reserves are owned by Italian and others, because they're using those reserves to pay off the debt. They just say, we're not going to pay you what we owe you, but we can give you some reserves that we have here in this river, so use that as our payment. So
yeah, and I think that one of the indications for me is that one of the people who was at the unveiling was, of course, not just Maduro, but if you follow Venezuela, there's Vice President Aissami, who has several international warrants out against him for money laundering. That's a guy whose face I'm hovering over with the cursor. And
yeah,
iCoin Index, which I actually have that article here too, is also rating it a scam. I'm very curious who did invest in it, because I hear that most people were expecting ahead of time that it would be a scam. It says, we can discourage people from wasting money on this project, the site reads. That's talking about iCoin Index. Another rating site, ICO Bench, rates the Petro 1.6 points out of 5. Other ICO raters, including Crypto Rated and ICO Review, haven't even bothered to review the project. Crypto Noticias reported, which I'm assuming that's a Latin American crypto information site. Last month, President Nicolas Maduro announced the sovereign cryptocurrency would be available for public sale on March 23rd, just days after President Donald Trump banned American citizens from buying the oil-backed currency. The sale followed a month-long private sale, which Maduro said received offers of as much as $5 billion from countries including China, Russia, and Mexico. Now, I don't see why China would need to invest in this. I thought they'd be a little smarter than that, because they've kind of what I think they could be doing. They've been leveraging that type of investment against African countries. What do you think about that theory?
Yeah. Similar to what's happening in Africa has been happening in Venezuela for a while, where the Chinese, lumps huge sums of money on infrastructure Venezuelans. They just push from China, and then they have their own little towns in there, and we even have signs in Chinese for railroads being built and stuff like that. So basically, the same thing they've been doing in Africa, and now I was looking at a video yesterday related to this. They're now doing it in the Baltic states as well. There's places where after the civil war a long time ago, Yugoslavia and all places that you see now, they want to invest on it because the corruption is high, like there's no business incentives and all these things. But China is not one of the few, the only ones investing on like for example, they bought a port, and now the port, one of the main, it's owned by China. so so they I guess it's part of their whole the new Silk Road strategy that they're trying to build in Mediterranean. But anyways, going back going back to, it's weird that they would having so much already accumulated so much debt from Venezuela that they can ask for at any time. I mean, they can sink the economy even further if they wanted to, and they can start getting, I don't know, like oil fields, like the companies that like Chevron and E&I have. Um, so yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, and I don't know if there was a little choppiness. Did you say that China's already done certain things like that with exclusive towns and bought large capital assets in Venezuela, or were you only saying that you're bringing examples from other parts of the world?
No, they already have in Venezuela. It's a huge part of the railroad now running from the east to west. So
Wow, that's pretty. Now that's kind of surreal if you're thinking about a country who's they've always said that they wanted to seize the assets of the rich for the people. In this case, they've seized them and basically given them to a foreign country. It's and I think one of the countries I know they've done that to in Africa is I believe it was Tanzania. And I think that there's a movement in Africa to get China out of there, or to force them to be a little more courteous in their relationship. Do you think that it will require a change of leadership for the regime for that to happen in Venezuela, or do you think Maduro could eventually, grow a spine? What are your thoughts on that?
I think they're relying too much on China right now to get things going and make it look like they're doing something. So if there's change in, let's say there's I don't know, a right wing government, I guess it's hard to say left wing that call you will call a right wing of what U.S. will call a left wing party. So, but yeah, I mean, I see that they're looking at this as a way to say, hey, we are developing. We're good with big countries like China and Russia. Look at us, kind of. So.
Yeah, that's something that I think it's bizarre. I know that ideologically he finds a way to justify the alliances with Iran, China, and Russia, but I have to believe it's definitely. I mean, he's already caused friction with his own domestic policies, but is that foreign dominance as far as those three countries, and you've already talked about Cuba in some of the previous episodes? Is that causing a lot of friction among local Venezuelans concerning China, Russia, or Iran?
I think there's have other problems to think about.
So yeah,
I don't think people care.
yeah, that's kind of my impression is that it's gotten so bad that people are fine with those foreign countries coming in and divvying up the assets. I'm going to talk a little about a story that I've been watching, and people have been kind of pinging me from around, Discord and other platforms that I interact with, especially Discord, but other places too. And it concerns the Zcash, which is another crypto that is, um, I know that they said that the blockchain technology is based on Bitcoin, and it is growing, and there's a lot of hype about it. And I hope, maybe in the next week, I've been talking to some people to have a little more information on it. But it was actually developed as one of the reasons it was developed, I wouldn't say all of it, is to be an alternative to what's happening right now in Venezuela, because the government, as Gabriel told us once, he was one of the other guests, uh, has been limiting the supply of dollars to Venezuelans, and in this way, many Venezuelans are able to dump their bolivars, which is the official currency of Venezuela, and kind of mask their actual holdings. Um, Carlos, do you know people who are doing this? Is this kind of is this more
Yeah,
of a little hype that we're hearing about, or is this like a real thing that people are trying more and
no,
more?
it is. Oh, it is something that I've seen. I have family members that are doing it right now. so so yeah, this is catching on for sure. Uh, with the people that I know from the country. So this is legit.
Yeah, and one of the things that people are telling me is that I know Bitcoin has some issues with identity protection. I do hold like a little Bitcoin. I just invested a little money just to see how it would do. Hasn't been doing well, but at least I didn't put in too much. In any case, there's the issue was a bit of the privacy issue, and whether the Venezuelan government could access the identity of the holder. Is it really? I mean, what happens to a person who is discovered to be, engaging in this type of activity in Venezuela by the authorities? Is it kind of more of a legal matter, or is it like that they actually get
Well,
like physical
well,
repercussions?
if you read the legal matter, right, which is you cannot be in you can I think it's prohibited right now to mine coins that are not petro. But you have to remember how shitty the justice system is. I mean, they have so many rules. They have so many ministries and so many rules that has kept this completely like meaningless. So whatever they do is just completely meaningless. People do whatever they want. Plus the electricity is pretty cheap. So I already know people that are doing it because it's pretty, the miners go to where the electricity is cheap, right? And when it's cold too. Uh, in this case, it's not cold, but it's pretty cheap. So there's a lot of miners. That's a lot. That's another thing that's happening in Venezuela. You see a lot of people mining, trying to get dollars. So, and going back to what Gabriel was saying in the past, we have a situation where, remember, like there was a huge capital flight in the mid 2000s, 2005, 2004. People were fleeing the country because they saw what was happening, what was coming, and then they started restricting uh, how do you exchange the dollar, right? They started requiring more things, like you have to have a plane ticket to a place where you use the dollar in order to ask for dollars. And only that, but you have a cap of how much dollars you get, depending on what you're doing over there. For tourists, there's a cap. For students, there's another cap. For family members, people that live in in those places, there's another cap. So they started restricting a lot of this, and not only that, even for people that applied with enough proof that they're traveling to the U.S. and they're doing some tourism, they took forever to complete the transaction. Where like you will just deposit an amount of bolivars, and it will take you like 3 months after your flight was scheduled to be in the U.S. It will take 3 months for them to give you the dollar. So again, the whole system was completely shitty, and that cost. So, but the main reason why they did it, I mean, I guess on their words is like, hey, we're losing capital, and there's less and less bolivars you know in I guess traffic, what do you call it, like in flow. So we're just gonna cap the exchange rate, so people keep using the bolivars, but we all know how that turned out.
All right. I am going to tell you guys we're going to be joined by another guest. We already mentioned him. Going to join for a few minutes because he does have some family celebration to attend to today. But Gabriel is going to join in a couple minutes, I think. In any case, yeah, I think that the issue over there, and it's one that I keep seeing, is that they, how did they wreck the economy? Yes, there's the issue of price controls that they've instituted for everything. They've made it really controlled economy assets, but they're also trying to police the way people are spending their money now because, basically it's the confidence in the currency has obviously collapsed, and they keep devaluing it. I think in February I had a Reuters article up about it. And Gabriel, welcome. Feel free to join
Hey
in
guys,
anytime you want. We were talking about Zcash, by the way. Do you have any thoughts on Zcash?
on Zcash. What's Zcash?
Zcash is that new crypto that is it's going on with it's kind of the
About
alternative to the Bolivar right now, and more and more people are using it over in Venezuela. Do you know anybody who's using one of those cryptocurrencies over there? I'm sure it's not the only one, by the way.
Oh, okay. You're okay. I thought you were talking Petro for a second, but okay, never mind. Zcash. Yeah, no, I heard a lot of alternatives right now, and people using ways to funnel money, especially people to send, family members sending friends and family member money from outside. They're using crypto. It's been very popular for the past at least couple years, and now more than ever since the Bolivar. I mean, we're just experiencing such a crazy inflation. Like, I think today the Bolivar dollar contract, it's like 581,000 or something like that per bolivars per dollar, which is it's out of control. It's insane.
Yeah, this was the
So
devaluation in February, which was 99%, 99.6% on the Bolivar, and they've done it before. I think it was 2016 they did it. And you guys probably remember other instances when they tried to do it. How does that directly affect people day to day? They have like these bundles of cash, and then they want to go, I don't know, buy some cigarettes, let's say, but even food. And it's a game changer. So are people basically using this as a direct, or I'm saying the cryptos, are they using it as a way of basically doing basic transactions day to day? Do they trust people to complete those transactions without getting ratted out?
I don't think the crypto it's used that way yet. I think what they're doing right now is using it as a way to exchange bolivar to $4. So it's mainly to get transactions from countries that have dollars, and then they use that, like what you saw, like AirTM. That's another app that they're using a lot. I know a lot of people are using it, and so right now it's a matter of exchange rate. Now, what's happening on the ground, like for example, uh, given the fact that the inflation is out of control, uh, that means that people need to carry more cash, right? But the problem is that that causes another problem, which is the banks cannot keep up with the amount of cash they have to print. So what happens is that even though, if let's say you have money in the bank and you want to get it out, it's impossible because the ATMs don't have enough money. There's limits on how much you can, obviously, every day, and as the inflation raises, it becomes, there's huge issues. Okay, that's one thing. And the other thing that what's happening is that, if you don't have cash on hand, because the ATM doesn't have cash for you, and you go to buy something using your debit card or credit card or whatever, they're charging like a portion of your of what you're buying. Like they're charging 30 to 40% or whatever your bill is to
Mhm.
actually do a transaction uh, on the market. Like let's say
Can you
you're
still hear me?
buying, yeah, you're buying some I don't know, pepper or something. So the just to do a transaction with the cards is it's another problem, right? Because people are charging you a portion of it.
Yeah, I
So
agree with what Carlos just said. And then the same thing is happens with cash. Like people, in order to get cash, they go to like a buonero or a bachaquero and then just buys cash directly from them. And then what they do is they transfer money with like a huge fee, like 30, 40, 50, sometimes even 100% of the fee to just get that amount of cash. Because cash is king right now. Nobody has cash. Like you can only withdraw from the banks if the banks have money, which most banks don't have money. It's like 10,000 bolivares, and now it's like it's nothing. It's nothing. Like so, people are really, they're people are without means. There's no way for people to have cash. So, and not everybody carries a card neither, and not everybody has a bank account. So that makes it even more difficult for people to have access to money and to have to access all their and to be able to buy food or their products of first necessity, which they can't even find. So that's another problem. So I mean, the whole thing is just so chaotic right now that and with the size of the inflation, like I mean, if you look at the prices of just any basic necessities or any basic food or even like paper towel, and you buy a roll of paper towel right now, it's like 800,000 bolivares, which it doesn't make any sense. Like I mean, it doesn't make any sense because the minimum wage right now, I mean, it's not even it's a fraction of that. It's a fraction. So even if you're trying to buy a month worth of of minimum wage, it's not going to be worth for you to buy a roll of paper towel.
Yeah,
So
and you guys are talking. I mean, even if there's a bank in, I mean, remember a lot of Venezuelans live in rural areas, so it must be even harder for them. I was talking
yeah,
on one of the episodes, I think in December, about the Arco Minero, which is being plundered right now by miners, and basically it's an environmental disaster. There's basically human
it's bad.
slavery going on, and it must
It's
be
bad.
like, yeah, it
Bad.
must be like a living hell there, even compared to the city.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty bad. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, a lot of responsible China and Russia are very responsible for that as well. They're very involved on a lot of that disasters happening right now. Um, uh, yeah. I mean, like, it's the whole place is insane. I mean, like, there's no way to really describe it unless like you actually see it and live it. And like, I mean, we're here. We're not there right now, but we have sense of from just hearing the stories and the news that come up every day and just see that things that we see, but we don't even know what's really what's happening day by day over there. I mean, it's just it's yeah, it's a war zone right now. It's a whole environmental disaster, and obviously it's all about greed. You know what I mean? So about greed is about funnel and just get as much as you can before this whole thing collapses, which is it's on the tip. It's on the it's on the verge of collapsing out of this, out of a cliff. I mean, this whole thing just can't give anymore. This just can't give anymore. I mean, out of a population of 30 million Venezuelans worldwide, over 4.5 million have left the country. So it's telling you that 15% of Venezuelans have left the country. And if you think about it, out of that 15%, I mean, the great majority, which were the most usually like the first people left, were people that people that were prepared, professionals, people that they can go somewhere else and be, and get something, get a job, or try to get some,
it,
just
it you know it and to add to that, it took Maduro like, this year for the first time, and Maduro and others in government. It took Maduro this long to say, oh yeah, we're losing our brains, like our people, prepared people are fleeing. For the longest time they were saying like, well, the people are fleeing are just like traitors of the of of the country, and they don't even deserve to be citizens of Venezuela. But now it's so bad that they are saying like, hey, you're right. People are prepared to leave in the country. We're not left
yeah,
with people that want to do anything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I've actually heard Americans who have called. I've asked them about it, and they've said that the people who left were the leeches, and you know, there are people
Yeah.
with a certain disposition, and I'm like, yeah, I guess in this case these are leeches that inject blood into the economy instead of sucking it out. Because those are I mean, there were a lot of very well educated Venezuelans there for decades. I mean, I was actually going to write an article about this today. I kind of ran out of time, so you know, I'm kind of sharing the topics live. I will say, Gabriel, I know you do have to leave soon, but Zcash, there is a lot of hype about it. I found this article in Fortune that says it could hit $60,000 per unit by 2025. But there's already been a Bitcoin bubble already, so you know, I think people should take it with a grain of salt. But you know, I think a lot of these cryptocurrencies, like you guys are talking about, they're at least useful for some of these people who are in this dire situation to have an avenue to convert their to basically be able to just survive in terms of financially, and you know, to actually execute transactions, and it's something we take for granted here.
Right. The only thing is, and I believe that cryptocurrency does have, and it's gonna be, it's here to stay. The only thing is, I think you know, it needs to be adopted. You know, and the adoption is gonna take a little longer because not everybody understands technology. Not everybody understands, you know, apps and now how to navigate from them. You know, so that's gonna take some time from a lot of people, especially people like in rural area, people that they don't really understand technology, which is a great portion of Venezuelans. Those people that they're also fleeing because of, you know, they just, you know, it's gonna take some time for those people to have access to this. You know what I mean? But I do think a lot of people are definitely benefiting. A lot of you know, people like that they have family members living outside that they're definitely sending money to them through, you know, through cryptocurrency. And I think I know people that are actually doing it, and that's very true that you know, it's helping. It's really helping on that situation. But but I mean, it's also fueling the market, the, you know, it's also fueling the price of the bolivar to keep plummeting more, just because now there's more dollars racing into the country, which creates more assets exchange from outside sources into what's coming in, you know, so that also creates a lot more rush into buy what you can before, you know, while it's there. So I mean, yeah, I really don't know what's going to be the solution to all this, but we are definitely, every day it's a new day on this, you know, in this country. And we thought a year ago, 2 years ago was really bad, and it's like, you know, I'm sure Carlos can agree on that. You know, it's like we see it from our family members and friends that they live there, and it's just like, yeah, who knows how this is gonna end and when it's gonna end. But something that I can also pick up in on the amount of people leaving, and the population that's leaving, it's so bad right now. It's so bad that PDVSA, um, they start having a rush of employees looking to quit, and there were so many of them quitting per day that they put a limitation of how many employees can quit per day. It's something like about like 20 to 30 per day that they can quit, and the list was so long that now people were paying to jump on the list to be able to quit even sooner. So they're like buying their slot to quit sooner. And then it's just like, you're like, how the hell people, you know what I mean, like how the hell people can, you get a job that you actually have to buy your quitting time, you know, like when you can quit. So yeah, I mean, that's how bad it is. That yeah, I mean, sounds, I never heard anything like that before, you know what I mean? But it's
Yeah,
happening.
this is can you guys hear me? This is a video
Yeah.
that somebody from Venezuela sent me, and this is from PDVSA. PDVSA is Petroleas de Venezuela, which is the state oil conglomerate. And this is the inside of the headquarters. You're seeing riot police dealing with with people in the cafeteria. That's how their main state enterprise is being managed right now. They're having to bring in riot police to control people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I thought at first some of the stuff was a little exaggerated, because after all, oil is people. I mean, people are going to buy oil. I thought, I mean, at least they would manage the company and make it solvent enough to actually function, because that is the one thing that Venezuela has still that can be bought at the moment is the oil. If PDVSA were to become completely non-functional, what would be holding the country together? Do either of you guys have a thought on that question?
I mean, nothing really. I mean, the country is already collapsing, and PDVSA is producing less oil every day. Every day, there's less. The production drops to the point that it's already collapsing. I mean, it's already producing less than what the country consumes. So in reality, there's no solution to this. There's none right now. There's no solution other than this government needs to leave, and once this government leave, then there's probably going to have to be like some sort of emergency funds given by the International Monetary Fund, and then as a loan to be able to rebuild the country, and then looking up as as opening all the doors for humanitarian assistance, and just kind of trying to see how many Venezuelans can go back to the country and start rebuilding, because right now the great majority of people that they're there in Venezuela, they just unfortunately they don't have the education or the means to be able to build the country, or at least what it's going to be. I mean, we're so, I wouldn't even say we went back in time, because back in time things were much better. So this just took us to a completely different direction, like a destruction direction. So I really think that there's no way to progress until this government leaves, and then there's and then leaders start popping up in different areas, and really start working on plans to rebuild the country. But right now, there's no way. PDVSA is going to keep collapsing. It's just going to keep collapsing, just like the electrical system in Venezuela, just like the phone system in Venezuela, just like everything that's happening right now in Venezuela. I mean, like it's there's no way to stop it right now. There's no way. This
is there a way? And I know this isn't the solution, but I'm saying, is this a scenario that could develop, that it could actually be lock, stock, and barrel managed and run by China or Russia, one of those countries, because they could basically turn PDVSA into a mercenary company that is run by one of the foreign governments. Do you see that possibly happening?
I mean, I think they're gonna try to claim their debt back, because there's a lot of money that they lend a lot of money to the Venezuelan government. But I'll tell you what, if the Venezuelan government leaves and we get a new transitory government, I don't think they're gonna let the Russians and the Chinese to run the country. I don't think so. I mean, like, I wouldn't personally. I wouldn't. It's not the Venezuelans' fault that Russia and China are in the position that they are right now with the remaining of the country. That it's not their fault. I wouldn't. So I don't know what the transitory government will do after that happens, but I just wouldn't. I mean, part is like you can just see how they're raping all the natural resources of Venezuela. I mean, if you go to see the Orinoco River, if you go to see like all the narco minero, all that area, I mean, like it's a destruction of what's happening there. So I don't know what's gonna happen there, but yeah, it's hard to tell right now. I mean, we don't even know what's gonna happen. I mean, it's just there's a lot what if, you know what I mean? So everything at this point is it's just what if. I'm sure Carlos can agree on that.
Yeah, yeah. I think they have too much. China and Russia already have too much accumulated uh, to let Venezuela go if they decide to go. So it's not going to be easy for sure. So whatever they decide to do, if there's a transitional government, it's not going to be like, well, I don't care about China. I'm not going to pay you anymore. It's just not going to be that simple. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think for me the frustration is because when I found this article from Bram Ebbes, who's this Dutch journalist, I thought, this would be, if there's anything that would alert a lot of people who normally wouldn't think that something should be done about this, it would be what's happening in the natural hinterland of Venezuela. By the way, it has some very pristine nature, but also a lot of people live there, and indigenous tribes as well. It's just getting completely ripped apart by illegal mining over there. It's illegal, but the government allows it because the people doing the mining, I think for some of it is for coltan, which I think is for computer components. Coltan is a mineral over there. I guess maybe
they call
what?
blue gold. They call them blue gold, and it's radioactive. So they actually
Yeah, so they're having people use hand tools. This is the workers' paradise of Venezuela. There, and you see these people basically do those look like anything? I mean, this isn't the mine, but you saw the previous picture, and this I don't know if this is called strip mining, but it's definitely cutting into some natural areas. This is something I've tried to get this guy to come on air. I think he said for some reason he knows he shouldn't be on camera or something, even though it's publicly known who he is. But it's pretty disturbing, I think, for anybody. And even I'm a big conservation supporter, which obviously is not the biggest story going on in Venezuela, but it is a story. And another issue that I think Gabriel, you brought up was the management of PDVSA. Now there's an investigation going on in was it Virginia or I don't remember, but it's in this World Oil magazine. There's rigged oil auctions that were squandering years of PDVSA profits. It might be in Houston. It's either Houston or Virginia. Do you think anybody who's actually complicit in this at the top of the Venezuelan administration is going to be held accountable for it, or are they just going to? Yeah, it's in Houston. So, do you think anybody like at the top levels can be held accountable for this, or are they going to be able to find people that'll be fall boys for this? Either of you guys?
I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
there's so many things popping out that I don't know what's gonna happen. I actually don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, this is a thing that you've been seeing for a while. Years ago, we had, I mean, the main guy for the economy, even when Chavez was alive, he quit because there was too much fuckery going around. Then he used to be also the CEO of PDVSA at some point. And when he was there, I think it was in the last years of Chavez, he was saying that there was millions of dollars lost, and nobody knows where. It's kind of what happened to the Pentagon. Remember that story where like they misplaced like what was it, like $30 million or something or more?
Yeah, but that's like every day at the Pentagon.
Yeah, right. But obviously
But it
when
is
you
every
have
day in Venezuela as well now. But yeah.
Yeah, but like the point is that in Venezuela it matters more because the economy is fragile, right? So when you lose that amount of money and the economy is going down, it's just ridiculous, right? So, but this has been happening for years now, years and years. And now I think what we saw right now with the video that you showed, it's just the breaking point, right? People are not getting paid probably enough, and people are leaving, people are quitting. So
yeah, imagine for the viewers at home. There's Shirley Huzar. Thanks for tuning in. But imagine Shirley Huzar is from California. So Shirley, these two gentlemen, Carlos and Gabriel, are also Southern Californians from Venezuela. So please make their acquaintance. Say hello in the chat. The problem is that Venezuela is dependent on one state company, PDVSA, and there are riots going on in the cafeteria, and they're bringing in the National Guard to control people. If you didn't see earlier, I'll share that video in the chat if I can find it. I actually X'd out the window. Let's see. Next story has a little more to do with us in the United States related to Venezuela. You have, this is from the Miami Herald. There is an American imprisoned there. His name is Joshua Holt. He's a Mormon missionary. And, I'm obviously not really expert on Mormonism, but he's been in prison in Venezuela, I think, since 2016. So Senator Durbin from Illinois went to visit him earlier, I think, yeah, it was earlier this week. Senator Durbin, I don't know if any of you are from Chicago area or other areas of Illinois, but he went to help get this person released, and it could he be being used as a bargaining chip in some sort of debt or legal dispute between the United States and Venezuela? What do you guys think?
Just really quick, I'll answer this part and then I gotta go.
Yeah, that's cool.
But so I'll just let you know that. So I'm surprised he was able to go to Venezuela, but my guess is the Venezuelan government right now, they're desperate to find ways to alleviate the sanctions, because I think the sanctions are hitting them pretty hard, especially now touching a lot of the funds like in Europe that they never thought that were going to be, frozen assets like they are now. And I think they're using that also as leverage to be able to alleviate and negotiate for their own, to reduce the charges or whatever they're gonna be able to get out of, to be able to get for, to release this guy out of jail. Because I mean, in reality, for most of us, most of us, our speculation is that this guy was just a tourist, and as he went, he went to visit his Venezuelan girlfriend in Venezuela, and he just got, caught by, the National Guards at some point, and they found out he's an American. They took him as a prisoner, and then now they made a whole story behind it to just kind of create some chaos. So, I mean, that's probably what happened, just because that happens in Venezuela, and it's a way to ask for ransom as well. But now, since a lot of the options have been depleted, they have to be holding to some other ones, and this one is one of them. Is by having a U.S. citizen. It's kind of like a way of holding power and just to be able to use it as a reason to negotiate and and gain something back. So, anyways, that's my opinion. That's what I think, and I don't think we'll see what's going to happen, how these are going to develop more in the future. So, but anyways, I got to go. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, it's been great. You're welcome back anytime. It's the first time we've had both of you guys on at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Carlos, great hearing from you, man. And yeah, thank you guys again. And I'll talk to you again soon.
All right, see you, man.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Carlos, you got anything to add to that on this situation? Is it any big news in Venezuela, this guy, or is it kind of not even?
I haven't heard much.
Yeah, I was just finding this stuff. I was looking for. I'll tell you what. I was looking for info on the upcoming election.
Yeah.
And there's barely anything out there. But there was something on this because Durbin was there. There was also another guy from Texas whose name is Sessions, James Sessions or something. 1 second. I'll get his name. Pete Sessions, who went down there apparently for some sort of a peace mission or something with President Maduro. And it was apparently it was leaked to the press that he'd been there on behalf of God knows who. And this is a Republican. Durbin is a Democrat. Could be that they were there for similar reasons. Do you think it's worth it for anybody to engage in diplomacy right now with the Venezuelan government, given the election that's coming next month, or is it kind of giving legitimacy to a government that's really hanging on by a thread?
I think I'm kind of a peace guy, so I will always say the diplomacy over everything, even when you have somebody somebody in power like that, or when you have a government like that. It's not a matter of like diplomacy or not. It's more a matter of how are you gonna do that, right? If you go in there just trying to appease them, then you're just not doing anything. You're just helping them doing whatever they're doing. But if you go there as a way of negotiating, like an agreement between two parties, and because at the end of the day, I mean, obviously we're talking about politics and who runs the government and everything. But at the end of the day, I mean, people are suffering. No matter who's in government right now, and yeah, the government has a big stake on what's happening. But if you any effort to bring some type of positive outcomes for the people, then I'm all for it. And one of the things they could do, if I was a senator or somebody from the Congress, I'll probably help at least get humanitarian relief to the people in Venezuela, even though the government doesn't want it. But that's what I would do. I would go there and talk to the government because I would like to open up some channels of humanitarian relief. And so that's something that's worth it, right? It doesn't mean that you're agreeing with the government. You just mean like, hey, dude, like let's work this something out. People are dying. Come on.
Yeah. I think we're talking about the Venezuela topic. Happens to, and I wanted to keep this very much focused on Venezuela. There's a lot of topics I've been talking about for the past few weeks that they have very little to do with that. But one thing that is being talked about is an intervention today in Syria, and people have been mentioning that there could be a similar thing in Venezuela. And for me, that it's a sore topic on both counts. I personally, I don't like the Syrian regime. I don't believe in intervening in the Middle East anymore at all. I think we should be focusing on other countries to be involved with in a more trade-friendly way instead of militarily. But there's been people who've been floating the idea of invading Venezuela as well. And that scares me too, because America has invaded a number of countries in the Western Hemisphere before, Grenada in '83, for example, Panama. I mean, you could probably list. I mean, we could do a contest. Which one would name more, me or Carlos? Because I know Carlos has read a lot about it. Would that be a popular thing to happen in Venezuela, though?
No, I think the Venezuelans who are pushing for that are people that live in Miami that have a lot of money.
Yeah, that's something. I think some people would be warm to it at the beginning, and then it would, they'd realize it would also be a different shitty.
I'm gonna go out on a limb, and this is just my opinion, but I think it's just a bunch of Venezuelan Republicans living in Florida saying that shit. It's just if you see, for example, one of the favorite TV shows of some parts of the opposition is this TV show with a Peruvian guy in Miami, which is we has literally called for intervention. Like he's kind of what you would have in the mainstream media here, people who are very comfortable with war. This is our guy. This is the guy we have there. All his program, it's solely focused on Venezuela most of the time anyway. And he has called for intervention, and people have shared that video. People that I know.
Can you send me video? Can you send me that guy, and maybe does he have like a large audience or?
Yeah, he does. But again, it's mostly Florida. And it's just
I'd like to hear from them, because the issue is hear me out for a second on this idea, because I've never pitched this to anybody, and you coming from Latin America, I'd like to hear your perspective. So the U.S. is engaged in all this fuckery over in the Middle East, and really our more natural countries we should have good relations with are countries that don't really get into a lot of wars, which would be the Caribbean and Latin America, where we could probably improve relations with them that are already fucked up, and we could probably do a lot more trade with them. And you have a lot of countries in the Caribbean. I mean, there's countries that are oil countries like Trinidad and Venezuela as well, but it's not as if we can't find countries that are good partners here that we've never had a war like a really hot war in the Western Hemisphere with any of these countries. I think that's a better idea. Oh, okay, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, what do you think about that idea? Is it like a do you think that that's a perspective that would be welcome in Latin America, or am I kind of blowing a lot of smoke over nothing?
Like the trading partnership? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it would be like if instead of like going and doing everything with, and India I'm fine with doing business with, but we do all this stupid manufacturing with China, a lot of trade with China, China, I think, can they can fend for themselves. I think it's better for us to have stronger relationships with the Western Hemisphere as opposed to countries over there.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I mean, in some ways, in the most U.S. way, many of the conflicts that you've seen in the past related to private companies that are owned or I guess managed from the U.S. So you see a lot of, obviously, the U.S. Congress is basically managed by private companies anyway. So a lot of the foreign policy is based on where the big guys want to invest in. So we have seen that over the history of Latin America that. And this is kind of one of the arguments from the communists, right? The people that actually support communism in the world is that they're saying, well, we have all these conflicts we've had in the past in the Western Hemisphere with a bunch of different companies and countries, and it always comes out that it's because the U.S. got involved because there's some interests uh, related to big private companies and big food companies, coffee companies, in the case of Guatemala, banana companies that were threatened by certain regulations in those countries, and so why would we listen to the empire, right? That's their view, and I think there's some truth to take in, and something that you were talking about, like why don't we just create good trading partnerships with people that are right next to us, right? They're right there. We don't have to go all the way to China. Obviously, China is a huge manufacturing hub, but there's a lot going on in the Western Hemisphere, and I think that's for sure.
Yeah, we don't have as many issues of religious conflict as we have in the Middle East. There's I don't know. I mean, look, natural resources. I think like you said, for example, I think I don't know if you mentioned it because I was kind of like looking at the chat, but in Chile we kind of screwed with them because of copper, because of a
Right.
mining company there too. Not that I in that era I would have definitely not been a fan of Allende, but the question I think, not just in terms of wars, but in terms of interventions, is when you're going to do something there, and I'm talking about like clandestine intervention with secret intelligence services. You can get some sort of short-term commercial gain, but will it be worth the long-term suffering that you will cause and also incur from it? And I mean, we both have different philosophies, but in my opinion, Switzerland, I mean, they have an economy that I think is very free, but they don't screw other countries, and they're doing very well. And then on the other hand, there have been countries that have been social democratic that are a little more inward looking, like Japan has a very strong social welfare system. So and that's just the difference in terms of domestic philosophy. So I think that's where I stand on that. That's kind of why I also segueing a bit into Syria. I think there's reasons for people of any political disposition to realize that there's very little benefit in actually going there for the Syrians or for Americans. And I've been getting all this crap from Trump fans, like the fanatical Trump fans. They're like, well, I mean, trust him, just do whatever I mean, fuck it. I mean, he's just going to do the right thing. That's not really my attitude. How's the reaction been in California to the possibility of an intervention in the Middle East?
I think people don't realize how close we are to that. We live in a little bubble here, so.
Are people still focusing on the whole Stormy Daniels shit over there?
Probably, but I just haven't heard much. I haven't gone around and see what's the deal. I mean, I've been focusing on more local elections happening in the 2018 cycle, so there's not much talk about that. I guess in my view, I haven't seen it.
Okay. Is there any like interesting thing going on with the election? I mean, I know you guys have a governor, senator. There's Maxine Waters.
Yeah. Interesting about California, and you probably know this, but even though we have a Democratic governor and two Democratic senators, our congressional districts are very the diverse. I mean, depending on where you are. Like for example, in uh, Southern California, you have pockets of Republicans. Like for example, in Orange County, there's like a city called Irvine. It's one of the kind of the hubs of big companies, and they have a Republican congresswoman. Then you have in Orange County also you have like
Newport
places
Beach.
like Costa Mesa, Newport Beach. All those are Republican Congress, Congress districts. So so what's happening right now is that we're obviously expecting a wave, right? That's kind of what everybody's saying. So you've seen a lot of people throwing their hats in for challenging this historically Republican districts in Southern California. So you see a lot of movement, a lot of people in the race. I mean, I think from now, like from 3 months from now until the end, until the elections, there's going to be a lot of endorsements and people dropping out of the race. But the race is very much steaming ahead. I mean, you see people already canvassing and searching endorsements, even though the crowd is, the field is very crowded. So that's what I see. I like it. I like the people when they engage in democracy and they try to, uh, just be involved in the political process. I think that's great. So yeah, as we see right now, a lot of people. I mean, we had a special election. I think it was on one of the congressional districts in LA, and the progressive was squished like crazy. I mean, even the Republican got more votes than the progressive, and the establishment Democrat got the most. But that was an interesting race to watch, and there are going to be a lot more. There's a lot of people coming out and try to run for Congress.
Um, yeah, there is something going on with California politics that I think we should discuss offline. I think you'll be very interested in it. Although you'll probably hear about it anyway. Maybe towards the end of the week, hoping to get it towards the end of the week. And you too, the viewer as well, not just Carlos. So I think we'll wrap it up. Carlos, any last thoughts on any of the topics we were talking about today or anything else we missed on Venezuela?
Well, we didn't talk about the election much,
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
there was a couple of things on it. Obviously, we have the major contender against Maduro is a guy that used to be with Chavez a long time ago, and he deserted the party when Chavez was still alive. And he became part of the opposition. So
Falcone.
so Falcone, and he went against basically the whole opposition, which are doing again the same dumb shit that they did in 2010, where they say, well, we're not gonna participate because it's not truthful. But in my view, that's stupid, because even if you don't have trust in the system, you at least try to put your weight in the scale, because right now you're not even part of the. It's kind of like they've lost their leverage into making a decision, right? Because the government, even though, like, let's say, I mean, let's just say that everything is corrupt, and you're never going to be able to elect an opposition party, fine, okay, but the government, it's interested in making it appear as if there is some competition, right? So you can do two things. Yeah, you have two options. You can use that as a leverage to have some guarantees in the election, right? Which I think is the right way to do it. Or you can say, well, there's no point, and if we don't participate, then that means that it gives less legitimacy to the government, because nobody is running against them, and there's no trust in the system, right? So the opposition took the second option, right? They say, we don't trust in the system, and kind of like the whole opposition party that kind of agreed and say, you know what, nobody's gonna run, nobody run, right? And then the guy Falcone, which is, he also is part of one of the opposition parties. He kind of went against the tide and say, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna run and see what the fuck happens," right? a lot of people don't trust that guy because obviously he was previously part of the of the PSUV. So you don't know what this guy is really trying to do. Some people say, well, maybe he just doing it because he wants to give legitimacy to the government and say, hey, somebody else is running against me. We don't know. But one of the things we're looking at is there's some polls that said that Falcon has a big chance to win again. Who do you trust, right, in polls? But let's just say that for the sake of the argument, let's say those polls are correct. So if the polls are correct, then that makes things more interesting. I think there's an opening here. I don't think honestly that people trust the system to vote as much, but I don't know. When you're desperate, when you live in a situation where things are the way they are right now, people will try to do whatever they can, I think. But it's really interesting because I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if I can't tell. I can't tell honestly if people are actually going to vote or just gonna give up and say, fuck it, we're just gonna leave the country. So it's very interesting what's happening right now. I think more than what happened last time they didn't participate, which was in 2010. That time people actually went to vote, and I think there was a certain sentiment that say, yeah, people are going to vote, and if you don't run, the PSUV is going to take everything, and that's what happened. But there was a different feeling. It's a different time. Right now, even the people pro government are not very. You don't see a lot of enthusiasm behind it because you see how things are going. Things are horrible, and there's not a certainty that a lot of people are gonna vote. So this is a very interesting time. I'm always of the mindset of we should always vote, you should always participate no matter what. But this is an interesting time to live in.
All right, and for those of you that don't know, haven't watched this or read anything about the country, PSUV is the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, and they're the core of the ruling elite in Venezuela and the political structure there. So Shirley, who's in the chat, was talking a lot about the illegal immigration conflict over in California, and she is a very strong anti-illegal immigration activist.
Yeah,
so I'm hoping one
deal.
day, I'm hoping one day to have perhaps, and this is an idea for either of you or both of you, to have kind of a discussion on the real issue of that concerning California and the the people who are low income living in California. So and Carlos, let's stick around for a chat after we go off air. But that was Testigo Venezuela, episode 10. I can't believe it already. And we also had Gabriel on, kind of unexpected. And that's it. Carlos, of course, as always, it's just Carlos. You don't have any social media right now, right? That you want to share, correct?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, so everybody have a great night. And, hopefully next time we talk about this, it will be a different situation in Venezuela.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.